The morning sunlight filtered gently through the sheer curtains, painting golden streaks across the bedroom where I had once felt safe and loved. For years, this had been my sanctuary, a place where I and Oren shared whispered secrets, laughter, and dreams of a future that now seemed impossibly distant. The divorce papers sat neatly on the polished oak table, a quiet reminder that everything I had believed in had changed in the blink of an eye. I ran my fingers over the edges, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. How had it come to this? Only months ago, life had felt perfect, a cozy home, a career I loved, and a man I trusted implicitly. Oren had been the kind of husband who knew my favorite coffee, remembered little details about my day, and made me feel seen in a world that often overlooked me. But behind the warm smiles and gentle touches, a storm had been brewing, one I hadn't seen until it was too late. The revelation of his betrayal hit me like a tidal wave, leaving me gasping for air, drowning in emotions I didn't know how to control. I could still remember the moment with crystal clarity. The phone call had come on a Thursday afternoon, during the lull of my workday. My heart had skipped when I saw his name flash across the screen, the same name I had once answered with eagerness and affection. But the words that followed were sharp, cutting through the illusion of our life together. "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. I've met someone else," he had said calmly, almost apologetically, as if the years we spent together could be erased with a few words. I had dropped to the couch, staring at the ceiling, unable to comprehend how the man who had promised to love me for life could suddenly become a stranger. My mind raced, trying to rationalize, to deny, to plead, but none of it mattered. The truth was undeniable, and the life I had built with him had fractured in a way I could not repair. The betrayal cut deeper than the divorce itself, for it wasn't just the end of our marriage. It was the shattering of trust, the realization that the man I had loved had not been honest with me for a long time. In the days that followed, I felt like a ghost in my own home. Each room held memories that now stung with pain. The kitchen where we had danced to old songs, the living room where he had read to me on lazy Sunday afternoons, even the garden where we had planted our small oasis together. All of it felt tainted by his absence and deceit. Friends and family tried to console me, offering platitudes and advice, but the words seemed hollow. No one could truly understand the weight of betrayal, the unique pain of realizing that someone you had trusted completely had chosen someone else over you. Yet amidst the devastation, a small spark began to grow within me. I realized that while Oren had taken his love elsewhere, he had also inadvertently forced me to confront myself, to question what I truly wanted, and to see the strength that had always been there, buried beneath layers of comfort and complacency. It was during one of those long, sleepless nights that I made a silent vow to myself. I would not allow this heartbreak to define me. I would not let Oren's choices steal my sense of self or my capacity to find happiness again. There was a quiet power in that decision, a gentle but unyielding force that began to grow within me. I started journaling, pouring every fragmented thought, every pang of sorrow, and every flicker of anger onto paper. Writing became a mirror reflecting not only my pain, but also the resilience I hadn't fully recognized before. Slowly, I began to see a path forward, not as the woman broken by divorce, but as someone awakening to her own strength and independence. It was not an easy path, nor was it quick, but each day brought small victories, a smile without tears. A morning where I didn't feel the weight of loss pressing on my chest. A moment when I remembered that I still had a life to live beyond him. As the weeks unfolded, I took steps to reclaim my world. I met with lawyers to ensure that the divorce proceedings were fair and that I retained not only financial independence, but also dignity in a situation that could easily strip a person of both. I began reconnecting with friends I had unintentionally neglected, laughing without the shadow of betrayal looming over every conversation. And most importantly, I started investing in myself, attending workshops, learning new skills, and taking walks alone to breathe deeply and reflect on the life I wanted to create. Each step, no matter how small, felt like a brick in the foundation of the new me. Oren's departure, while painful, had forced me to awaken to a version of myself that was strong, aware, and unafraid of solitude. I realized that this awakening was not about revenge, nor was it about proving anything to him. It was about reclaiming the person I had been and discovering the person I was meant to become. My journey was just beginning, and even though the wound was fresh, I could already sense the dawn of something profoundly transformative. The first few weeks after the divorce felt like walking through a dense fog. Each day a mixture of uncertainty, memories, and the persistent ache of betrayal. I had expected anger to dominate my emotions, but what surprised me most was the subtle, lingering sadness that crept in during quiet moments. I would catch myself staring at the kitchen counter where Oren once brewed my morning coffee, or pausing at the bedroom door, half expecting him to be there. Yet, in the midst of that sadness, there was also a growing determination, a realization that my life could no longer revolve around someone who had so casually discarded the love we shared. I had to find a way to reclaim not only my happiness, but also my sense of identity. As the fog began to lift, I started to explore my surroundings and my interests in ways I hadn't allowed myself before. Long walks became my sanctuary, where the rhythm of my steps seemed to align with the beat of my heart, steadying it after the chaos of betrayal. I discovered new coffee shops, tucked-away bookshops, and quiet corners of the city that I had never noticed when life had felt predictable and secure. Each discovery was a small victory, a reminder that the world outside my grief held experiences and people who could enrich my life. Slowly, I began reconnecting with old friends who had drifted away during the years of marriage, and I found solace in their support and shared laughter. Their presence reminded me that I was not alone, that my worth was not defined by Oren's choices, and that I had the power to shape my own future. Yet, even as I found strength and independence, thoughts of Oren lingered, refusing to be ignored. I could not escape the question that haunted me. How could someone who once claimed to love me so deeply choose another without hesitation? The anger bubbled beneath the surface, a quiet but potent force, driving me to examine every moment of our relationship for signs I had missed. I scrutinized the subtle shifts in his behavior, the whispered phone calls, the moments of distraction that I had dismissed as stress or fatigue. The betrayal was a labyrinth, and I was determined to navigate it fully, to understand not just his actions but the underlying motives that had led to this devastation. I refused to allow confusion and heartbreak to cloud my judgment. Knowledge, I realized, would be my first step toward true empowerment. During one particularly reflective evening, I stumbled upon Oren's social media profiles, not out of curiosity, but in a deliberate attempt to understand the man who had once been my partner. The images were carefully curated, showing him smiling with another woman, traveling to places we had once dreamed of visiting together, living a life that seemed to mock the one we had shared. The sight ignited a mixture of fury and clarity within me. Fury for the betrayal and the ease with which he had replaced me, but clarity in that it revealed the truth I had been reluctant to face. Oren's heart and choices were no longer mine to influence, and my path forward depended solely on the strength I could summon within myself. It was a painful but necessary confrontation with reality, a reminder that the power I sought could only come from within. In the weeks that followed, I channeled my energy into rebuilding my life with intention. I pursued professional goals that I had set aside, dedicating myself to projects that challenged and inspired me. I signed up for self-defense classes, not out of fear of Oren, but as a symbol of reclaiming control over my own body and choices. I reconnected with my family, discovering a network of love and support that had always existed, but had been overshadowed by the demands of marriage. Each action, no matter how small, reinforced a profound truth. I was capable of standing on my own, of forging a life rich with meaning, even without Oren by my side. And in that quiet empowerment, a seed of confidence took root, promising that the woman who emerged from this heartbreak would not merely survive, she would thrive. Months passed, and the rhythm of my new life began to solidify. I no longer felt like a ghost wandering through my own home. Instead, every corner, every familiar object had become a reminder of my resilience. The apartment that had once held memories of Oren now felt like a canvas, one I could paint with my own choices, colors, and intentions. I started hosting small gatherings for friends I had reconnected with, sharing laughter and stories that had long been buried beneath sorrow. The energy of companionship revitalized me, and I realized how much I had neglected myself in the pursuit of a life that was never truly mine. These moments, simple yet profound, reinforced a growing awareness. The betrayal I had endured had awakened a strength I never knew I possessed. Despite this newfound strength, there remained a persistent ache whenever Oren crossed my thoughts. I could not escape the curiosity, the need to understand why someone I had loved so deeply could become a stranger so effortlessly. One evening, I discovered hints of his professional dealings and personal entanglements that had previously been hidden from me. It was evident that Oren's life had shifted in ways I had not anticipated, and while part of me wanted to look away, another part demanded the truth. I began compiling information, not out of spite, but from a desire to understand the man who had once been my partner, and why our lives had diverged so violently. Knowledge became my anchor, giving structure to the storm of emotions that still occasionally surged within me. As I delved deeper, I realized that Oren's decisions were not simply the result of impulsive desires, but stemmed from a web of fear, insecurity, and self-interest. It became clear that the man I had loved had always struggled with commitment, with vulnerability, and that his betrayal, while devastating, was a reflection of his own unresolved battles. Understanding this did not ease the sting of betrayal, but it provided context, allowing me to shift my perspective from pure anger to a measured, almost clinical assessment of the situation. I began to see that while Oren had controlled our shared past, he would not dictate my future. The realization was empowering, a subtle yet profound shift that marked the transition from victimhood to agency. Around this time, an unexpected opportunity emerged that would change the trajectory of my life. A former colleague reached out with an offer to join a collaborative project that promised professional growth and personal fulfillment. It was a venture that required risk, initiative, and the courage to step into unfamiliar territory, all qualities I had nurtured in the months following my separation. I accepted without hesitation, sensing that this project could serve as a bridge between the life I had lost and the life I was determined to create. The process was challenging. I encountered obstacles that tested my resolve and forced me to confront lingering doubts about my capabilities. Yet with each hurdle, I discovered reserves of strength, creativity, and resilience that had lain dormant, waiting for the catalyst of change to awaken them. As my professional life flourished, I also focused on personal growth. I sought therapy to process the complex emotions tied to Oren's betrayal, to untangle the threads of love, trust, and anger that had become knotted within me. These sessions were not easy. They required honesty, courage, and a willingness to confront pain I had long avoided. Through this process, I developed a clearer understanding of myself, my boundaries, and the patterns I would no longer tolerate. I cultivated a routine of self-care, mindfulness, and reflection, recognizing that the journey toward healing was not linear but iterative, requiring patience and persistence. In this phase, I realized that while Oren had taken much from me, he had also inadvertently unlocked a potential I had never recognized, the ability to stand independently, to thrive despite heartbreak, and to embrace a future defined not by betrayal, but by my own choices. By the time I reached the 4th year after the divorce, my life had transformed in ways I could hardly have imagined. The pain that had once seemed unbearable had become a source of quiet strength, a reminder that I had endured and emerged stronger. I had cultivated a network of friends who celebrated my successes and offered support during moments of doubt. Professionally, I was thriving, contributing to projects that challenged my skills and rewarded my efforts. Personally, I had learned the value of solitude, of time spent reflecting and nurturing my own desires and ambitions. Each day was no longer a reminder of loss, but a testament to resilience. A canvas on which I could continue to paint my life with intention and purpose. Despite my growth, Oren's presence lingered like a shadow in the periphery of my mind. It was not the longing of love that haunted me, but the questions that remained unresolved. I needed to understand the choices he had made and the life he had built in my absence. Curiosity and caution intertwined as I monitored the developments from a distance, careful not to allow resentment to dictate my actions. What I discovered was a life that, on the surface, seemed successful, but was fraught with complexity and subtle instability. Oren had attempted to construct a world without accountability, yet the cracks in his carefully curated facade were evident to me, a reminder that appearances often mask deeper truths. Observing this reinforced a profound understanding. While he had wielded control over our shared past, my future was mine alone to shape, free from the influence of his decisions. In the midst of reflection, an unexpected reconnection occurred. I encountered Oren at a professional event, a situation neither of us had anticipated. The encounter was charged with tension and unspoken history. His gaze lingered briefly, a mixture of recognition and perhaps a flicker of regret. Yet I stood grounded, aware of the transformation that had taken place within me. In that moment, I realized that the power I had gained was not contingent upon him acknowledging it. My confidence was internal, earned through years of perseverance, reflection, and deliberate effort. Oren's presence no longer held dominion over my emotions. Instead, it served as a mirror reflecting the distance I had traveled and the strength I had cultivated. During this period, I also began to mentor others who were navigating their own journeys of loss and betrayal. Sharing my experiences, the strategies I had employed to regain agency and self-respect, became a form of empowerment not only for them, but also for me. Each conversation reinforced the lessons I had learned. Resilience is cultivated through action, clarity emerges from reflection, and true strength is rooted in self-awareness. By guiding others, I solidified my understanding that betrayal, while devastating, can serve as a catalyst for growth when approached with intention and courage. The narrative of victimhood transforms into a story of empowerment, and the wounds inflicted by others can become the foundation upon which a stronger self is built. Yet even as I embraced this new chapter, a lingering curiosity about Oren's personal transformation remained. I wanted to understand the man who had once held such a profound influence over my life and who had chosen a path divergent from ours. What I discovered was that the person I had known was still present beneath the layers of ego and denial, yet his choices no longer defined me. This realization crystallized the ultimate truth. While Oren had been a significant chapter in my story, he was not the author of my future. I had reclaimed my narrative, and with that reclamation came liberation. A freedom born not from vengeance, but from self-possession, clarity, and the unwavering commitment to honor my own journey. The 5th year after the divorce marked a turning point that I had long anticipated, though I did not know the exact moment it would arrive. Life had finally aligned with the vision I had nurtured quietly over the years. My career had reached new heights, my personal life was filled with meaningful connections, and the sense of independence I had fought for became an integral part of my identity. I no longer defined myself through the lens of past betrayal or loss. Instead, I embraced a narrative of self-determination and empowerment. Every choice I made, every path I pursued, was a reflection of my resilience, my lessons learned, and the unwavering belief that I was capable of crafting a fulfilling life without reliance on the validation or presence of others, even someone as significant as Oren once was. The encounter with Oren at a professional conference earlier in the year had been brief, yet transformative. While our eyes had met and a silent acknowledgement passed between us, the encounter solidified the distance I had cultivated, not out of anger, but from the understanding that our stories no longer intersected. I realized that his mistakes, the decisions that had caused me pain, had inadvertently shaped the strength I now carried. That knowledge did not diminish the betrayal but reframed it. Each moment of hardship had been a stepping stone, each painful realization a lesson that guided me toward self-reliance. I understood fully that forgiveness, not necessarily directed toward him but toward myself, was essential to sustaining the peace I had fought to achieve. In the weeks that followed, I dedicated myself to further growth. I traveled, explored new experiences, and deepened relationships that had previously been neglected. The freedom of living unbound by resentment allowed me to approach life with a renewed perspective and energy. Mentoring others remained a vital part of my journey, and the stories of those navigating similar challenges resonated deeply with me. I shared openly about resilience, personal empowerment, and the transformative potential of navigating pain with intention and courage. This engagement reinforced my sense of purpose and reminded me that the narrative of betrayal could be transformed into a narrative of growth and strength. My life, once dictated by loss and heartbreak, was now a testament to the power of perseverance and self-belief. The final closure came not from confrontation or vindication, but from internal realization. I understood that Oren's choices, though impactful, were merely a chapter, and not the entirety of my story. True liberation arose from recognizing my autonomy, reclaiming my voice, and embracing the lessons that hardship had delivered. I no longer sought validation from the past. Instead, I nurtured the present and envisioned a future informed by wisdom, courage, and self-respect. The awakening of my strength was not a result of vengeance or bitterness, but of deliberate choice, reflection, and the unwavering commitment to live authentically. I had transformed pain into empowerment, sorrow into insight, and betrayal into a catalyst for profound personal growth. Looking back, I see a life reborn from the ashes of loss. The divorce, the heartbreak, and the betrayal that had once seemed insurmountable had become the very forces that awakened resilience, clarity, and purpose. I now move forward with confidence, embracing every possibility that life offers, unafraid of challenges, and grounded in the knowledge that my strength has always been my own. Oren's mistakes, once a source of pain, have become the cornerstone of my transformation. I am no longer defined by what was taken from me but by what I have built for myself. And in this reclamation of self, I have discovered not only freedom, but the profound satisfaction of standing fully and unapologetically in my own power.